Yes, I know the word revolution is a big word, and I'm a little reticent about using it because it brings with it flavours of anarchy and destruction, and it's probably the last thing parents and teachers like yourselves want to hear. But the students amongst you probably already feel that a revolution is necessary. Now, I was brought up pretty much blindly to respect my elders and my betters, and that included politicians and corporate bosses. No more. I'm embracing that word revolution because there seems to be no other way. Now, we have 3 crises today, any of which has the potential to tear our society apart in the next 10 to 15 years. The first crisis is the environment, and that's had a lot of coverage recently. But are MPs listening? Are they doing anything? No. We are currently leaving a toxic and devastating legacy for our kids. The second crisis is income inequality. And wait for this. In the UK, 14 million people, that is 21% of the population, are struggling in poverty. And that includes 4.1 million working poor, 4.5 million children, and 1.9 million pensioners. How is that even possible? We are the 5th wealthiest economy in the world. And the third crisis is mental health, which is directly or indirectly affecting all of us, and it's accelerating rapidly. Now, I could smother you in some very frightening statistics, but just in case you didn't know how bad things actually are, let me give you the headlines in 3 different areas on mental health. Firstly, there's the general position on mental health in the UK. 1 in 6 of us, that is 11 million people, are struggling with stress, anxiety and depression in any one week. And 75% of those get no treatment at all. Financially, mental health problems cost the UK economy an estimated £95 billion every year. That accounts for over 4.5% of GDP. That is a phenomenal financial waste. So there's an excellent economic reason to sort this crisis out. Secondly, and more specifically, this is how the younger generation, the future of humanity, how they are faring. 1 in 5 children will experience a mental health problem before the age of 11. And in 2017, 2/3 of children referred for specialist mental health care were not receiving treatment, even if they were self-harming or suicidal. And thirdly, this is how the NHS is performing overall. 1 in 5 people wait over a year for mental health treatment. 1 in 10 people wait 2 years. And remember, 75% of people get no treatment. Now try telling any of that to somebody with depression. And here's why. Only 13% of the NHS healthcare budget is spent on mental health problems, even though 75 to 90% of GPs visits are stress related. So to provide therapy under the current medical paradigm for the millions of people currently struggling would cost hundreds and hundreds of billions of pounds every year. Now, the total NHS budget is currently just over 100 billion, 13% of which is for mental health. So to get adequate funding for mental health therapy is not going to happen. And we seem to be facing an impossible conundrum. But there is a solution. Mental wellness education. It's cost effective, it's quick to put into place, and whilst it might not actually cure those who are very ill, it can transform the lives of the majority of those who are struggling, and society along with it. But what have we been taught about our mental health? What have we been taught about how our mind works, how we create our mental reality on a moment-by-moment basis? Absolutely nothing. So here's important fact number 1. Stress, anxiety and depression are not mental illnesses. Only when they are bottled up, avoided and hidden do they become a seemingly untouchable, unconscious loop of toxic thinking. And if, as the current medical paradigm requires, you manage them or you medicate them, then by definition they are still there. And for most people it is perfectly clear that they are not manageable, they are not medicatable. And that is why the crisis is getting even worse. And here's important fact number 2. We are supposed to get stress, anxiety and depression. Our system is operating correctly when we get them. They are a signal from our system telling us that there's something wrong with our life, that we need to stand back, have a look and change something. So we need to understand what stress, anxiety and depression are actually telling us, and then we can take action. That might be making changes in our thinking, in our behaviour or in our lifestyle, or all three. And then, and only then, can we actually beat stress, anxiety and depression before they descend into that toxic loop. And yes, despite what you may think or what you may have been told, stress, anxiety and depression can be beaten. Now, because we know nothing of how the unconscious part of our mind actually works, we seem to be powerless against stress, anxiety and depression. And by the way, here's important fact number 3. 91% of our mind and how we create our reality is unconscious. So just think about that for a minute. Because after all, if we could simply consciously tell ourselves to pull ourselves together, we would. And the reason we know nothing about our minds or our mental health is that the school curriculum doesn't even touch on emotional intelligence, let alone mental wellness. So what is the Mark Newey method? Well, when I finished writing my first book, The Naked Eye, in 2013, I realised I hadn't spent the previous 13 years being a therapist at all. I'd been a teacher, an educator, because the vast majority of my work is teaching and coaching, and that's why I call myself a therapeutic coach. The Mark Newey method is based not only from the learning from my own breakdown and beating that, but also over the past 20 years helping thousands of other people to beat stress, anxiety and depression at the coalface of mental health. Now, over the last couple of years, 2 things have happened. Firstly, my clients have been telling me that I need to stop hiding in my office and get out and reach the masses. And at the same time, young people have gone from 10% of my client base to over 70%, re-emphasising the complete lack of support for our children. We are fundamentally failing our children. Now, the Mark Newey method is that solution, and it can be delivered as a teaching and coaching program through schools to students and parents, and then online to everybody. Headucate is the mental wellness education program that we need. Headucate is the revolution. Now, Headucate is built around 4 key platforms to literally transform your life. It is not about teaching you how to manage your problems. So platform number 1 is self-awareness. You will understand the automated filters, including limiting beliefs and negative childhood programming, with which you currently create your reality on a moment-by-moment basis, and therefore how stress, anxiety and depression manifest for you personally, why they are there and the messages that they're trying to give you. You will become emotionally agile, and this means that you will learn what your emotions are trying to tell you without being swamped by fear. And the second platform is self-esteem. Now, because you were taught from a very young age to worry about what people think about you, you've learned to hide behind a mask. You've learned to put up a hologram to show people the cool, magnificent human being that you wish you were. And the trouble is, knowing that you're not that cool, magnificent human being can be incredibly mentally debilitating. Now, self-esteem is just being comfortable in your own skin, recognizing that you're not perfect, but you're genuinely happy with who you are anyway, warts and all. And how many people do you know that are comfortable in their own skin? But no matter what you have or you haven't done in your life, everybody, without exception, has the capacity to connect with their self-esteem. The third platform is creating a life vision. You've probably never actually been sat down and guided through what it is you actually want from life. And I'm not talking about the family, the house, the car. It's often much simpler and always much deeper than that. But only when you have real self-awareness, including understanding your unconscious, can you actually work out a vision for your life. Now, importantly today, this will enable you to ride the waves of change that our increasingly unpredictable and insecure world is throwing at us every day. And the fourth platform is self-empowerment. When you truly understand who you are and you're happy with that person, you can work on your own development, on your own learning with precision, rather than bouncing from one self-improvement trend to another. When you're comfortable with yourself and you know what you want out of life, you are truly empowered to make that happen. So join the Headucate revolution. Human beings are wired for connection with others. We are a truly tribal species. We are rewarded with feel-good hormones for just being with others, especially when we ourselves come from a place of worthiness. Connection with others is absolutely essential for mental wellness. But what's happening around us today? Society is breaking down in front of our eyes. Studies have shown that empathy halved between 1979 and 2009. And who knows what's happened in the last 10 years, because we're getting increasingly angry and isolated. Now, one of the side effects, the beneficial side effects of individual mental wellness is the rebuilding of connection with others, the rebuilding of society. So mental wellness education is also a solution to many of society's gaping wounds like loneliness, homelessness and knife crime. But it is only us as individuals who can turn this round. It is essential that we stand up and tell politicians that we are no longer prepared to accept inaction on mental health. To that end, Headucate has created a petition for compulsory mental wellness education in schools and for promotion of it to the general public. So please join us on the Headucate mental wellness revolution. There are two options: to join the Headucate community, to sign the petition and to receive regular updates and teachings and be part of the solution. Click on the community link below. If you would just like to sign the petition and show your support that way, please click on the petition link below. So please join us on the Headucate mental wellness revolution.